G'day everyone, welcome back to another edition of Guvs Hero Review videos. We are continuing today with our Springtech series, taking a look at the 5-star legendary green hero, Variant Hareware, the Springtech Fluffy Critter. So, please note that this is the review for the variant version of Hareware. Feel free to check out the description of this video if you're looking for the review of the normal version. Variant Hareware is available for summons from the Springtech seasonal portal, which rolls around once every calendar year. As is the case with each of the seasonal events, even though it's only a one-off appearance per year, it does last for a 4-week period, and typically the spring one will bridge the months of March and April, offering a shot at 2 different heroes of the month. Variant Hareware is the newest of the Springtech heroes into the portal at the time of this recording, being added in March 2023 alongside Variant Pika. Both of them were originally released in their base form back in March 2021, but the portal and the family were expanded once in March 2022 and then again in March 23 with the variants. The portal itself, we could take a quick look at the odds. So we've got a 0.6% chance for a legendary seasonal hero and a 1% chance for a legendary seasonal variant hero. So to put that in perspective, if you were to do 100 summons in this portal, costing you 26,000 gold, you would have a 63% probability of drawing a variant hero and a 45% probability of drawing a non-variant legendary hero. If we were to drill down onto specific heroes, there is a 39% probability of getting a specific variant hero at the time of this recording, and just an 18% probability of drawing a specific non-variant hero over those 100 summons. A couple of real quick housekeeping things before we kick off into the review in earnest. So number one thing to note is that the variant is not a wholly discrete hero. You do need to level the base version of it up first before you can level the variant version all the way up as well. It does mean though, because they are not discrete heroes, you can only use one or the other in wars, same for defense teams. You can, however, level 2 copies and use 2 different heroes, but because they only occupy 1 roster slot, they do only count as 1 discrete hero. The second thing to note is that these portal stats do include the full variant bonus. In the case of the Variant Hareware, there's no opportunity to get a 5-100 without getting the full variant bonus, but they are already including those 6, 6, and 9% improvement. The third thing to note is also around the variant bonus, specifically the charge bonus. So someone at SGG has tried to represent that charge bonus onto the hero's speed. Unfortunately, this is wrong. It's not how the mechanic works. I have done a separate video explaining in depth how this bug works and what the impact is. There should be a link on screen and also in the description of this vid. But the TLDR is that they've tried to translate a charge generation mechanic onto speed, and unfortunately that's not how charge generation works, and it's also not how speed mechanic works. So yeah, just something to bear in mind. Hareware and Variant Hareware actually have a base speed of 36, not the 40 that is shown. So with those couple notes out of the way, let's dive into the rest of this review. So starting off with the artwork. So we can see here, Variant Hareware's artwork. He's called the Fluffy Critter, and he does have some fluff all over him. It's still got that same mechanoid, like mech hero sort of look that the original Hareware had, but now we've sort of covered it into the fluffy version that we've got here today. I still do wonder if there was a rabbit inside the suit controlling it, but I don't think we'll ever find out, to be completely honest. So feel free to pause it if you wish to look at the artwork further, but otherwise, let's head back to the portal and we can take a look at the family. So he is a member of the Springtech family, which means that Variant Hareware will provide 5% charge to all allies whenever he casts his special skill. This is increased by 2% per each unique additional Springtech family member in the battle. So a couple things with this. Number one, they do have to be unique heroes, so it can't be 2 copies of Variant Hareware. It's got to be paired with 2 different heroes, such as using Variant Hareware with Lepus or with Coney as 2 examples. Second thing to note is that it is a flat charge improvement, so it is a flat 5%, so it doesn't matter what a hero's charge speed is, they're all going to get 5% additional charge. The third thing to note is as well is that this 5% is affected by charge generation modifiers such as variant bonuses, charge emblem nodes, as well as in-game buffs and ailments. So you are unlikely to actually see any noticeable impact of this. I mean, getting a 5% improvement of 5% charge is only a 0.25% increase. So it's not even within the accuracy of the game's display. So you probably won't see it at all. In terms of his personal stats, Variant Hareware comes in with 771 attack, 675 defense, and 1,531 HP. So there is a little bit of a skew going on here. We've got the defense stat is reduced and the attack stat is quite high by comparison, especially compared to the original Hareware, where the stats are almost reversed. Ultimately, there is also to note that his power isn't as high as some of the new heroes, so you've got Topaz at 742. All this means is that there is less overall stats to go around, so the power is just a calculation of their base stat distribution. So that's his stats. His charge speed, even though it is showing as 40 slow, his actual charge speed, due to that bug I mentioned earlier, is 36 slow. So the following numbers that I'm going to present are going to be based on 36 speed because it is more accurate in terms of the battle experience. So at 36 slow speed, he requires 12 tiles to charge, or 6 ghosted tiles. The speed break occurs after getting +7. So you've got to get all the way up to 43 charge speed in order to get the speed break. You can't actually do that with weapons alone. However, the only speed weapon in the game, which is the Relic Hunter Bargo, gives +6. If you combine that with either his class node or the 5% charge bonus, you do actually get across the line. So because of the fact you're always going to have the variant bonus available to you, there is actually no need to pick up the speed node at all for Variant Hareware, because if you give him the +6 +6 weapon, the 5% charge bonus from the variant will always kick him over into a speed break position. By way of a class itself, he is a member of the Sentry Class, which grants him the chance to armor up and gain 5% armor after receiving any damage. Now, I don't personally mind this perk, as the damage can come from any source. It can come from minions or tiles or skills or DOT or anything like that. The biggest downside is that it only procs once a turn, regardless of how much damage the hero takes, but it's also a little bit lackluster when you compare it to the Medic talent, which gives healing to the entire team, as compared to the self-only effect of the Sentry Class. By way of an actual emblem path, you could go either an attack path to enhance his damage output, or you could arguably go a defense path to better improve his survival. So for me personally, I will be embleming for the normal version as opposed to the variant version. That's just the way I will go. So the variant for me is just going to inherit the emblems that got given to the base version. But stop at pop-ups. If we were to have a look at a Sentry Class hero and see what those paths look like, I'll just pull up Shocker here. So if we look at an attack path first off, we are going to go whichever route gives us the most attack points. In instances where you choose between defense and HP on either side, personal pick, I'd go defense, so this would be the attack path that I would be following. At this point, the healing node is not very useful, so go the side that gives you 2 useful stats, and this is ultimately what the path would look like. As I mentioned, the speed node at +19 is not relevant, and the +20 is a lot of emblems for no massive stat bonus. So that's the attack path, ATTK. If we were to go the defensive route and show what it looks like, again, we're picking up any side that's got defense. Preference to the sides that have got both defense and HP on them, but otherwise we would stop again at +18. Yeah, so that's the defense path, D, E, F. So feel free to pause on either of those two if you wish them. Otherwise, let's head back to the portal and have a look at the rest of his skill. So his special skill is titled Bunny Blast, and at level 10 skill and 36 or 40 charge speed, it will deal 365% damage to the target and nearby enemies. It will then provide a +94% defense against red buff to the caster and nearby allies for 3 turns, as well as reflecting new status ailments that are attempted to apply to the caster and nearby allies for 3 turns. This particular effect cannot be cleared. Finally, the caster and nearby allies will gain +38% charge generation buff for the next 3 turns. So little bit of stuff going on with this skill, so let's take a quick squeaky peek and break it apart a little bit, starting with the damage output. So I, for simplicity, compared damage dealing heroes based on their attack power. Now, attack power is just their attack stat multiplied by the percentage in their skill, and it is ultimately analogous to their final damage output, just remove some of the variability of the damage calc. So in the case of Variant Hareware, we can see that his attack power comes out as 2,814, or an attack power per tile of 234, which comes in number 2 of the green options in the game, which is very good ultimately. I had missed Variant Hareware off some of the other reviews I've done. Mainly, I think it only applies to Emerald. I missed him on Emerald's review, but ultimately we can see Variant Hareware is coming in there number 2 of the green DOA 3 options. So a very, very notable improvement over basic Hareware, who we can see has an attack power per tile of only 84. So very good compared to that, and even good compared to most of the other greens. You know, you've only got Whack that's higher than him at 287 attack power per tile, but then you've got Variant Dasher at 184, Emerald at 219. You've got Dasher at 150, Powell at 147. So there's a lot of green DOA 3 options, and Variant Hareware comes in at number 2 of them. So good green DOA 3 hitter. Moving on from the damage, and we can have a look at the other parts of his skill. So the second line is the defense against red buff. So the caster and nearby allies get plus 94% defense against red for 3 turns. So note that this is only applying to damage that comes from red sources. So we're talking red tiles or skills and slash attacks from red heroes, or even minions that are actually owned by a red hero. All of these will result in a reduction in the net damage. It is also only a defense improvement, so it's not a damage reduction immediately. Because it is plus 94 defense, when we feed that through the damage calculation, all things being equal, it comes out as being a 56% damage reduction, which is still very good. It's over half the damage that is reduced. The 94% is fairly standard for this type of effect. There is only one hero that does not have 94%, and that's Mayhem, who comes in with 48%. It is weird, don't ask me why, but all of the other defense against X element, they are all 94% defense improvement. So generally speaking, I tend to find this ability quite somewhat of a miss, particularly in the raid arenas. I rarely have ever encountered issues when I've seen it on defense teams, and in attack situations, it is very situational. You're unlikely to face many defenses that have got more than one red hero on them, so the actual time where it's going to be useful on your attack team is very limited. The exception is Nima. Nima is very exceptional because purple and yellow are in direct opposition to each other. So it does mean that Nima can be brought along to a war machine fight to aid a lot of survival. But, you know, Variant Hareware and the other green and blue options that you've got with this skill, you wouldn't bring them to a war machine fight. Like, you wouldn't bring Variant Hareware against a red war machine, because green is inherently weak against red war machines. So you're not going to get the benefit out of it. So there's not that usability there. The next part of his skill is that the caster and nearby allies reflect new status elements for 3 turns, which is an effect that cannot be cleared. So it is a similar or same effect that we see on Aviana and Giselle. It does apply only to new status elements, so any elements that are already existing, they stay on. They don't get reversed, removed, or whatever, anything like that. They stay with Variant Hareware. However, any new effects that come his way and his nearby allies, they will get flipped back and given to the caster of those abilities instead. So it is very effective, particularly against charge control elements like Insanity, Charge Block, Silences, and all that sort of thing, but it's also very good at flipping and reversing the old DOT ailments, so burn, toxic, poison, blaze, and all of that sort of thing. A final thing to note is that for whatever reason, SGG have classed this as a defensive buff, even though it does absolutely nothing to modify the defense stat in the damage calculation. I have talked about this at length in other videos, but suffice to say, at some point in time, SGG changed what the definition of a defensive buff is. Originally in Empires and Puzzles and PuzzleCombat, the a defensive buff was classed as something which affects the defense stat in the damage calculation. At some point in time, that's been changed, either intentionally or unintentionally, and it now has a larger range of effects that are included in that list. Most notably are the Ailment Shield and Ailment Reflect effects. So what this means is that this effect can be bypassed by a hero like Sidestep or Shutdown. So yeah, my personal suspicion is it was an unintended change, and then SGG, rather than actually fixing the bug, just said, that's working intended, and made it a feature instead. So they have done this on a number of other occasions with bugs in the game. So ultimately though, in spite of that, it is still a very, very useful effect. The final part of Hareware's skill is the charge generation buff, where the caster and nearby allies get plus 38% charge generation for 3 turns. So overall, this is, for me, probably the best effect on Hareware or Variant Hareware skill. It is a very good buff because it increases all the charge gained from all sources of charge by 38%. So this is tiles that give charge. You've got skills such as from Zigzag. You've got minions. They will generate more charge from like Booster or Pulse. Buffs like you get from Ksenia. Any of those effects that generate charge will be increased by 38%. It is also a good effect because it applies to himself and nearby allies. There are better options, like Jocasta gives it to all allies, but Hareware is that middle area where he's giving it to himself and nearby allies. So there is a fair amount of technical stuff about how charge works in the game. The TLDR version is that under this buff, it drops a hero that would need 10 tiles to charge down quite considerably. So if we look a little bit more technically, so a 10 tiles to charge hero, would get down to 8 tiles, is the simple version. So in the technicalities, under this buff, Variant Hareware is, instead of getting 1 charge unit per tile, he's instead going to get 1.38 charge units per tile. So a hero's charge speed, their base charge speed, 36, sets what the charge units that you need for, or the number of tiles you need to charge their skill. So if we look at a hero with a speed of 50, they need 10 tiles to charge. It is exactly 10 tiles to charge. With the speed buff active, instead of getting 1 charge unit per tile, you get 1.38 charge units per tile. So instead of needing 10 tiles to charge, you only need 8, because 8 tiles, when you multiply 8 by 1.38, it comes out as being 11.04 charge units, which is greater than the 10 tiles necessary. So the buff is very good because it will pretty well always result in a 2, if not a 3 tile charge break. It's very, very good. The other thing to note is that it does stack additively with other charge generation effects, specifically the variant bonus of 5%. So on Hareware's case, once he's fired off this skill, he's getting a 43% charge generation bonus, which is close to double, which means that instead of needing the 12 tiles to charge his base skill, we instead need just 8 tiles to charge Variant Hareware when we've also got the plus 6 weapon equipped, which is very, very good. I mean, 8 tiles multiplied by 1.43 comes out as 11.44 charge units worth of charge. If I quickly flip over here, we can see that 11.44 lands us between 40 and 39. So as long as we can get it above charge speed 40, we are going to be laughing at that point. So to get there, we do need to go from 36 to 40, so a plus 4 gun or the plus 6 speed weapon. And that gets us the speed break down to 8 tiles. So very, very good effect for Variant Hareware in the end. So overall, I do think that Variant Hareware is a very, very good hero, a very solid hero. To get the best use out of him, you probably still need to be pairing him in a green stack. You can't really use him as a standalone hero. Ultimately, though, he does look to be like the yin to the yang of the base version. The base version has low damage, defensive stats, and very good secondary effects, whereas Variant Hareware has high damage, hit and miss secondary effects, and more attacking stats. So ultimately, people are going to ask, which would you prefer to use? And the simple answer is the silence and the charge control on base Hareware are very, very, very versatile, and it's hard to get past that versatility. So for the most part, I would say that the base version of Hareware is much more effective in attack situations. However, the variant version is much better suited to defense teams because you've got that better damage output. You've got more buffs that are suited to defense teams. You're also better off using the variant Hareware in event situations because he's got higher damage. And as I said, the buff booster tournaments, he's generating 3 buffs for himself and his nearby allies, which is a lot of buffs to be producing. So in a lot of situations, I'd prefer the regular version of Hareware. But in saying that as well, the variant version of Hareware is still a very good option to have in your back pocket for a lot of defense or a lot of situations. So for Variant Hareware's grading, I'm going to give him a B grade for his War and Raid attack. Solid hero, good damage output. The charge generation buff, as I said, is probably the best effect, followed by the ailment reflect. For War Machines, I'm going to give him a B-. The Ailment Reflect is okay, the charge is okay, but mostly he's only contributing tile damage, and there are better options for that as well. In the event situations, I'm going to give him a B grade. Pretty decent event competition hero. Not the best that you can get, but still a pretty good option. AoE 3 hitters are better off for event competing or event competition than any of the other formats other than multi-hitters. In War and Raid defenses, I'm going to give him a B grade. He is one of the more common Ayumi tank alternatives in the game at the moment, and tank is probably his best position. Even though his stats aren't the most defensively oriented, he is still a good option. He is also a good option in a dual green flank situation on a red tank, just trying to maximize that defense against red buff. If you've got two greens, people are more likely to stack red heroes against them and become a little bit negated against a blue or a red tank situation. In the 3 tournament settings, so we've got Bloody Battles up front, so I'm going to give him a B grade on Bloody Battle attack and a B grade for Bloody Battle defense. In buff boosters, I'm going to bump him up to getting a B+ on both attack and defense. He does generate 6 buffs, 3 buffs for himself and nearby allies, so that's 9 buffs in total, or 180% additional attack stat. In the charged attack setting, he is also going up from 36 speed, or 40, up to 65, so another big improvement. Very much helps his damage output as well, so I'm going to give him a B+ for the charged tournament attacks, and a B+ for his charged tournament defense grade. And overall, that comes out as being a B grade for his overall attack, and a B grade for his overall defense. And that concludes the content that I have for this review of Variant Hareware. As always, these are just my personal opinions on these heroes. I do love hearing your thoughts and feedback, so please leave me a note in the comments section of the video. I do try to read and respond to as many of you as I can. If you did enjoy the video and found it to be good, useful, helpful, and all of that, feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel and all of that, but most importantly, share the video around, because this sort of thing, if it's useful for yourself, chances are it's also going to be useful to the other people you play with as well. Thank you once again for tuning in and joining me. I do hope I will see you again soon in another video, perhaps the review of regular Hareware. But until then, good luck, stay safe, and happy gaming. Cheers, bye.